Let's get a quick take on the latest developments in the $700,000 suit over legal fees stemming from the 2012 Aurora Theater shooting. At one point, 4 surviving victims were appealing the U.S. District Court judge's decision that would require them to pay the theater's legal fees. Since then, there's been at least a deal offered that would waive those fees if all of the families involved gave up the ability to appeal the decision. That's still in flux. Patty Calhoun from Westward, it's been a difficult situation all the way around. A, that it went this far, that there are still folks that might be on the hook for $700,000, giving up the right to appeal. As you look at this, what's your reaction?
Well, it was a difficult case in the first place. So this would be a good outcome in a horrible situation if they could not be responsible for paying the legal fees, all the victims, adding insult to injury. And we also had another good development this week, which is the memorial. They've started work on the memorial for the Aurora shooting victims.
They did finally get their funding guaranteed there. David Copeland from the Impens Institute and DU Law School. At one point, there was actually some critics about the legal representation from the victims' families' point of view. Did you see a problem on that side, or is this how it's supposed to roll?
It's how it rolls, and that's what law is you have rules that you know in advance, and then in the court you apply the existing rules to the facts as they're proven in court. This shows sometimes the Denver Post editorial page is actually on the cutting edge, because back in June, when the request for this legal fees, to which the defendants are legally entitled under the law, was filed, the Post said this could actually be something where they then make a deal, which is plaintiffs give up their right to appeal and Cinemark waives its right to the $700,000 in legal fees. And apparently that's exactly what's happening with something that was approved by the court, a stipulation on Wednesday. Not all of the plaintiffs have said they'll go along with it, so if they don't want to, they can go to and appeal it, knowing that they're going to have the legal liability even then by themselves for not only trial court legal fees, but also the appellate court legal fees.
Eric Sonner, political analyst. Beyond all the different legal aspects of this, does Cinemark come out okay, I guess, in the court of public opinion, if they do indeed go through this deal and waive the fees?
I think Cinemark comes out as well as Cinemark can come out, and that's all they can hope for. I'm largely with Patty here. I think if this deal goes through, it's a good resolution in a very tough circumstance. You don't want these people to be victimized again. Lord knows they have been victimized enough. At the same time, I do believe in the notion as a general concept of loser pays as an incentive to get rid of frivolous lawsuits. I'm not suggesting there's anything frivolous about what happened in Aurora. But this was a lawsuit that was not destined for success. They were going after a deep pocket in Cinemark. So I don't object as a matter of principle to the notion that the plaintiffs would be liable for legal fees. But if there can be a deal to avoid it, let's do it.
Penn Tate rounds out the panel, attorney with QTAC Rock, also a former state lawmaker. Wrap it up for us. Do you think the deal gets done?
I hope the deal gets done, because I think it's the right result. You know, this is a tough lawsuit to begin with, because the plaintiffs were basically arguing that Cinemark should have known to have more security to protect them from some random madman who shows up armed to the teeth and starts killing innocent people. And I think a lot of people had trouble with that proposition, and indeed the jury did, as did the judge. You sort of have to give Cinemark credit here, because they made an offer like this previously when the judge indicated he was probably going to rule in their favor, and most of the victims' families opted out of going further, but 4 families insisted on pressing this issue. Then they got whacked for Cinemark's legal fees. So for Cinemark to come back, and I think they are doing this to sort of rescue their public perception, but at the end of the day, it's the right result.